Hi, Wyoming Traveler, and I'm here at Bent's Fort. Now, one of the things you'll probably notice is there's a wall here around this fort. Bent's Fort was not a military fort as we think of, but it was a trading post established by the Bent St. Vrain Company. And we'll talk about that as we go and explore the fort. William Bent and his brother Charles, along with Corinne St. Vrain, built the fort in 1833. The company transported and sold manufactured goods from St. Louis to Santa Fe along the Santa Fe Trail. From the west, the company obtained furs and buffalo robes, which were shipped east. The company built a number of trading posts along the east face of the Rocky Mountains for trade with the Indians, French trappers, Hispanic, and American mountain men. The fort became the center of the expanded holdings of the Bent St. Vrain and Company, including Fort St. Vrain in the north and Fort Adobe to the south, along with company stores in Taos and Santa Fe. The primary trade was with the Southern Cheyenne and Arapaho Indians for buffalo robes. The fort was built along the Santa Fe Trail and was the only major permanent white settlement on the trail between Missouri and the New Mexico settlements. The fort provided explorers, adventurers, and the U.S. Army a place to have wagons repaired and get needed supplies, livestock, good food, and water. During the war with Mexico in 1846, the fort became a staging area for Colonel Stephen Watt Kearny's Army of the West. Disaster and disease caused the fort's abandonment in 1849. Located on the banks of the Arkansas River, Bent's Old Fort was an important point of commercial, social, and cultural contact between the Americans, Indians, Hispanics, and other groups on the southern border of the United States. As you approach the fort, you will notice that it looks like a castle. In fact, sometimes it is referred to as the Castle on the Plains. Join me as we explore Bent's Fort. The fort is built with a courtyard, and all the rooms face and enter the plaza. I will begin the exploration by moving around the fort in a clockwise circuit. This is the Indian trade room, where the traders would trade the Indians for their pelts, for various things. And interesting is this little window over here that goes into the entrance to the fort. And this is where the Indians would come and trade because the Bent brothers were reluctant to allow a large number of Indians into the fort. Not so much that they feared the Indians, it's just the Indians would have a tendency to take what they wanted. This was the primary trading room versus the one that we were just in, which was the Indian trading room. This is the central courtyard.
There in the center is the beaver hide press. They would use this to press down the beaver hides for shipment back east and eventually to Europe.
The plaza was the scene of much of the fort's activity during most of the day. Moving down the walk, we come to the dining room.
This was the kitchen to the fort. Cooking hearth. And then outside here would be kept some of the chickens and other farm fowl. I don't know whether you can see this well, but this is the larder where meat and other things were stored to protect them.
Back through the dining room area and up the stairs.
Okay, we'll proceed upstairs.
This room on the upper wall above the kitchen was something of a VIP room. Important guests to the fort generally stayed here. On the upper wall across from the VIP room was the billiard room. Access to this room was restricted to gentlemen only. Back on the ground floor, next door to the kitchen, are the quarters of William Bent and his family.
This was Bent's quarters, where he stayed or lived. A smaller one down here, which was probably their bedroom.
Down from the Bent's quarters is the blacksmith shop.
Warehouses fill the bottom rooms, and upstairs were quarters for various people, both dignitaries and laborers. When the army came here during the Mexican War, this is where General Kearny stayed. Here's another quarters for a more prominent individual. This is where the laborers of the fort lived, or rather slept, spent most of the time outdoors. Walking into another storeroom, but what is different about this particular room is the well. The fort had its own well.
A few years after the Mexican-American War, the company's business declined. Conflict between Indians and whites increased, and the fur trade was dwindling. Charles Bent, who had been appointed governor of the New Mexico Territory, was killed during the Taos Revolt. Kareem St. Vrain sold his interests in the company and moved to New Mexico. In 1849, a cholera epidemic spread through the tribes, effectively ending the Indian trade. Bent then abandoned the fort and moved down the Arkansas River and built a new fort, where he continued his Indian trade business until the start of the Civil War.